The war that's going on is a war of DNA. So the reason why they interbreed, the reason why they're looking for an interbreeding with each other is because they want to make sure that they maintain this particular DNA within their family line. Because this particular DNA gives them exalted abilities, gifts, psychic gifts, telepathic, telekinetic gifts. So they inbreed not because, well, partly because they are twisted, and in French it's called sang royal, which means royal blood. In the 1950s, there was a search for. Okay, so there was an influx of incarnations of higher vibrational beings coming down to this planet to try and change what's been going on here, because it has been essentially a prison planet for thousands and, well, 50,000 years, really. And so there was an influx in the 1950s and the 1970s of higher vibrational beings. The controlling consciousness that is in charge at this moment of this planet is what is and are aware of every incarnate being that comes into this planet. Through sexual union between a male and a female, energy is then sent up and vibrates up through frequencies. They have technology to be able to see where, and then a soul is then attracted to a lifetime, and then the soul will then, this is just one way, a soul will then come to the womb of the mother, and they can track this from happening. In the 1950s, there was something called Project Oak Tree. Oak Tree is synonymous with Lucifer. The controlling power that has at this time power over this planet is aware that there are very, very, very powerful beings. I don't know what you would want to call them, demigods, gods, whatever you want to call them. That there was an influx of them coming. So they didn't know where and when they were going to be here, but they needed to find a way of tracking them. So I'm going to address two different projects, two projects that I feel are significant, that I think that everybody should know about. This reptilian vampiric consciousness that has control of this planet is basically a fear-based consciousness. If they weren't a fear-based consciousness, they wouldn't need to control everything. If you're in fear, you have to control everything around you. If you are centered and balanced in yourself, you don't need to control things around you. So I'm going to address this. So Project Oak Tree is connected to Project Ibis. Okay, and there is my connection to James Casbolt. 42 children were selected from mothers that were born in the 1950s. So the children would then be born between 1972 and 1978. They were all male. There's no females. Because they're looking for, okay, so male energy is explosive, creative, external creative energy. Female energy is receptive, nurturing energy. So they're looking for male energy because it's the male energy that externally builds the world around us. So out of the 42 children, they were looking for these. This is the Anunnaki who put this project together. They did it out of fear because they knew that these beings were coming to this planet, and they needed to make sure that they had their hands on and had control of these particular beings. They didn't know which ones were going to be which. They didn't know. Some were hidden, some are put into the entertainment industry, and some have been hidden throughout their lives. They were looking for specific beings. The beings that they were looking for were Hermes, Hermes is Thoth, and they were looking for Lucifer. They were looking for the Christos, or how would you say, Yeshua, Jehovah, Satan. Satan and Lucifer are two different individual beings. They are not the same being. So they're looking for these particular beings because they are incarnating. Now, as time has gone on, more powerful light beings are incarnating and more powerful dark beings are incarnating. It's becoming more and more and more and building. So this particular project, what they did is they, because the Anunnaki are genetic masters, they are genetic masters on every level. So they went to the pyramids at Giza. They also went to the pyramids all over the planet. What they had done is they had, remembering this consciousness, this Anunnaki consciousness has a complete understanding of the inner earth and the surface earth. So they know exactly where all the energy grid lines are, all the ley lines, all the dragon lines. Know where Ramesses was buried. They know where they were all buried. So they went and took pieces of DNA, okay, from different ones. They took pieces of DNA, then they put them together, and then they put them into a womb, a carrier, a female carrier. Females that would be able to carry such powerful beings. So it's called oak tree because, I mean, they were looking for a number of different beings, but they were primarily looking for Lucifer because they're following revelations from the Bible as a script. So they're following it to a T as a script. So they had been looking for, there was about 4 or 5 different boys that, and they weren't sure which one was that one. Each one of these children has also incarnated into multiple lifetimes beforehand. Okay, so for example, Thoth in Atlantean times was king and ruler, and he ruled for 50,000 years throughout Atlantis. So if we go back 13,000 years, okay, which will take us to approximately 11,000 BC, let's say 11,000 BC, there was a very similar situation that is happening now, that was happening then. A potential cataclysm that was going to happen then. What they wanted to do is they think that they can stop the cataclysm that happened when Atlantis fell. Atlantis Atlantis wasn't some idyllic paradise. It also had wars, and it was also, there was negativity went on there, but it was a far more advanced civilization than the one we have now. Project Ibis. There's also a female parallel project to it, where they were trying to bring in female deities too. They were looking to bring in the partners of the males from Ibis. They were looking to bring in the female partners to pair them up with the males. So if they took, for example, let's use the example of Isis. They went and took DNA from the tomb or the body of Isis, and then they manipulated it and then placed it into some women's wombs are stargates, are stargate openings. So they also have the knowledge of which women's wombs are stargates. So then by manipulating DNA, placing this here, placing this there, then placing it into the womb of the female, then they can draw through the stargate if the child is born at the exact time and the exact date, and then they can draw that entity into and then birth. Okay, so we're understanding that the female is the receiving energy and the giving energy. Obviously, there are 2 ways. One is naturally a male and a female coming together, and then the other way is the manipulated way, where they track through Project Oak Tree to find these. I think there's only very few women who have these specific stargates. Let's say 11 stargates in their wombs, and they found those and they tracked those. For the females, the females were born in the 80s, and the males were born in the 70s. They've got to make sure that the child doesn't look completely different to its parents, otherwise it's going to look very, very bizarre. So what they do is they take small amounts of DNA from the carrier mother and small amounts of DNA from the supposed father, and then put that also integrate that into the child. This was primarily an MI6 project. It was called the MI7 Zygote Project. Okay, so when people talk about MI5 and MI6, MI5 would be the UK that takes care of what happens in the UK. MI6 would be the international that takes care of international. But what most people don't know is there is MI1 to MI9 all the way through.